Miami's been on a roll lately, and a big part of that has been a surge from Bam Adebayo, getting it done on both ends of the court. Do the numbers make a case for him being considered an all-NBA player this season? Wes, does he get your vote?
I'll let you know.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app, thanks so much for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Join the Cookie Gang and become an everydayer. That means subscribing, tuning in every day Monday through Friday, and signing up for the Everydayer Club with the link in the show notes. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. I'm Wes Goldberg, host of Locked On NBA Daily and Real GM Radio. I'm here with David Ramil. Both of us are credentialed Heat media members who cover this team every day. Jam-packed show for you today, all about Bam Adebayo. And I want to start today talking about Bam because he started the season off slow, misses the All-Star game for the second straight season, and was drawing a ton of criticism when the team wasn't playing well and his numbers weren't very good. But lately, David, quietly, he's been great over the last couple months. Over the last 20 or so games, he's averaging 22 and 10 on 45% shooting, including 31.4% on threes on more than 6 3-point attempts per game, which is a bananas number. And this was a number that was a stat that was making the rounds yesterday on social media. Bam is 5th in on-off point differential. Now, the number that was really making the rounds was 2nd in on-off point differential on Jokic, but there's been a couple of games since then and stuff happened. So now he's 5th, but he's in that same ballpark as a guy like Nikola Jokic, who is like, I joke that he invented on-off because he was always #1 in on-off numbers for half a decade. He's 5th in on-off point differential, plus 11.3. The Heat are 11.3 points per 100 possessions better when Bam is on the court when he's not. That's behind Jokic and behind guys like LaMelo Ball, Donovan Mitchell, and Julian Champagnie. Julian Champagnie is a weird, like, his stats are always like along with Wembanyama, or his minutes are. Yeah. So that's like a weird one. You always got one of those things in there. But Donovan Mitchell in the MVP conversation. LaMelo Ball playing for the league's hottest team in the Charlotte Hornets. And there's a lot of noise in some of these numbers. But I think what it shows you is, okay, he's in the conversation with guys like Jokic and Donovan Mitchell, who are going to be on the MVP ballots at the end of this season.
Sure.
I'm not arguing that Bam is an MVP, but I think it does reflect just how good he has been and, moreover, how important he has been to this Heat team lately. We're seeing a version of Bam that is playing like an all-star for the last couple of months. And it's a big reason why the Heat have the NBA's 4th best record and 2nd highest scoring margin over the last month, David. Bam's been a big part of that.
It's what fans have been hoping for, what they expected from him. And I think that the fact that he didn't live up to those expectations early on just kind of re-emphasized the concerns that a large portion of our fan base has had regarding Bam, that he's not a max player, that he's not a guy you can count on, et cetera. But I think the numbers bear it out. I don't know if this has been a trend. I mean, it's been a couple seasons now of Bam having this kind of late season surge. And I don't know if it has to be an approach that he has chosen to make to save himself a little early on, because I just don't understand how, look, and I know there were reasons for it. You know, at the start of the season, the offense was changing, the personnel had changed. You're trying to figure your place in the new offense. It was a lot more fast-paced, a lot more three-point opportunities, et cetera, and he wasn't exactly fitting in. So things did change. They made some tweaks over the course of the season. He bounced back from injury, and he's played much better as a result. But it also feels like, you know, he takes the foot off the gas a little bit earlier in the season and then kind of just accelerates as the season moves on. So I think that is a part of it. But having said all that, that doesn't take away from the impact that we've seen from him over these last couple of weeks. He's been phenomenal. And the defense has been there. I like that he's made a point to say, you know what, I'm playing defense at a high level. I know he was asked about the Defensive Player of the Year candidacy, et cetera. But he's made an incredible impact on the defensive end for a number of years. And I know that he takes pride in being all-NBA defender, and he will be again this year. Of that, there's no doubt. But now we've seen the offense kind of surge a little bit as well, and he's been great in that role. He's figured out his place. He's figured out a way to make an impact. He's been aggressive, which is what you want. He's been getting to the line. He's been doing a lot of the things that fans have been clamoring for. And I think the rest of the league has taken notice. I think the stats that you pointed out, that kind of shows his impact on the court in a way that makes it tangible for a lot of the fans and media members that might have kind of overlooked Bam over the course of the season because he did start off so sluggishly. So there's no way of denying how good Bam has been. Like, he has been really, really good, and he has made a difference in helping this team get to where they are now in the East Coast standings.
I'm glad you brought up the fact that he started the last couple of years off slow, because that is now becoming a troublesome trend. Yeah. I can't really remember why it was the case last year, but I do remember his shooting percentage was really low, and just as it was sort of the beginning of this year. Now, this year, there, as you mentioned, where am I going to fit in this new offense, right? We got rid of the pick and roll. We're also we're trying to expunge the mid-range game from the offense for the last couple of years. And maybe that was a big reason why that happened last year too. It's like this team just doesn't want to take a bunch of mid-range shots because they had been so over-indexed on mid-range jumpers over the last few years of the Jimmy Butler era that they needed to go in another direction. They needed to be more efficient in terms of what their shot plot was going to be at the end of these games. More shots at the rim, more shots from three-point range. So when you spend 2 years of saying, hey, all of that stuff that you worked on, Bam, we're going to get rid of all of that, right? Yeah. Like, we're going to get rid of the mid-range thing, and we're going to get rid of the pick and roll. So, like, good luck finding where your offense is going to come from. And that's why he ended up having to really step out to the three-point line, was because that's really it's most of where the offense is going to come from, right? Is him getting the ball on the perimeter and either deciding to shoot it from there or drive to the basket. And, he's an improved three-point shooter, but he's not Tyler Hero from out there. So it's not going to be efficient for him all the time, and he's going to be streaky. Now, he has, like I said, improved as a three-point shooter. That has been a big part of his game. What stands out to me recently about him offensively is that he's playmaking more. They're getting out in transition more. The defense is feeding offense, and that's giving Bam an opportunity to get into the open court and make moves with the ball there. And I think there's more confidence with his handle and trying to get around guys. And then getting into the post. We talked about this right out of the All-Star break, right? That first weekend, a couple of wins that they got against Memphis and Atlanta, I think it was, where, all of a sudden we saw him getting fed in the post, spin moves, mini dream shakes. There was that, like, runner baby skyhook over Jalen Duren in the game on Sunday. He's starting to get to the rim more and do more than just your traditional post-up, although he will, and just try to get to his finesse game and try to use his touch a little bit more. And that's what really stands out is, look, the three ball has been there all year long. It's been streaky, but finding ways to find more efficient offense closer to the basket, I think they've unlocked something there. And I think that's a big reason why you're seeing the numbers. But really, it's defensively too, right? It's not just the offensive numbers that have obviously stood out, but defensively, the defensive rebounding rate when he's on the court is sky high, and it has been historically. They win the margin, but turnover margin, they're winning that when he's on the court. Right? They still push the pace when he's on the court. Like, Bam has this way of filling in all the gaps and checking so many boxes when he's on the court, that to me, that's the underrated part about Bam that you and I have been talking about for years now.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way around it. I don't know, man. Like, it's a conversation that I think needs to be had. And I also kind of feel like fans don't want to hear it at the same time. I don't know. I feel like it's important for us to make the point. And I know we're going to come across as Bam defenders or something along those lines. And I feel like that's so unfair, because you see now how it's manifesting. And it feels like the only reason why people are a little bit more bullish about Bam's performances is because of the offense. And so the defense has always been there. And I think even the defense has almost been better, I would say, over the last few weeks as well. Like, he's definitely been playing much more intensity, much more urgency. The impact is undeniable. Like, he's just everywhere defensively. Like, to do like that play against Kobe White, that was with the Charlotte Hornets. Like, that was such a big play. And I hope that kind of gets the notice that it should. Like, that's a highlight reel in of itself. And this is a player who gets so largely ignored for all the things that he does. But I mean, we've seen this for years and years. It's just, if you can't appreciate what he does, and he made the statement himself, because he does not get blocks, he won't get the kind of consideration that he deserves for Defensive Player of the Year. And I think that's been going on for far too long. He is so impactful on that side of the ball, like being able to erase shots from guys that just would feel much more comfortable being able to attack a big. Like, it's not to say that it doesn't happen. Players will still attack that because they perceive it to be a mismatch, as it should be given Bam's size. But more often than not, Bam just erases possessions. Like they just don't exist. They result in not a shot. They just wind up saying, you know what? I can't get past this guy. I'm not even going to try. I'm
Right.
not, he matches me step for step. And it's such a big part of what makes him such a strong defender. So he doesn't have the kind of defensive stats necessarily that might stand out to people. But if you watch him for any long stretch of time, like he's often, maybe even sometimes the only defender out there on the floor for Miami. Like everybody's playing defense to a certain degree, but he's such a stellar defender that he just makes everything much more easily. Like he'll put a wall up between him and the rim and forces a turnover from somebody else who can afford to help and sag off because the player's committed, thinking that they're going to be able to drive into, past Bam, and suddenly realize, oh hell, I've got nowhere else to go, and that leads to a turnover that way. So even as other players accrue statistics that help them defensively, a lot of that stems from Bam's overall impact and being a great defender.
There's advanced stats for Bam too that show, like, of all the big men in the league, nobody over the course of the last half decade has done a better job containing ball handlers, switching onto smaller players than Bam. And those numbers show up in turnovers forced, in field goal percentage overall, and in all those kinds of things. And structurally, what we're talking about is Bam is not a classic drop defender. The Heat will play drop defense with Bam. They'll do it, but they'll also play zone, and they'll switch everything. They'll do multiple schemes here defensively. But when Bam is able, what Bam is able to do, where like somebody like Rudy Gobert, for instance, right?
Yeah.
Multiple defensive player of the year, gets a lot of blocked shots. He's always in drop. And so when you're always in drop and you're hanging out by the rim, your job is to just block the shot, right? To stand between the guy when he gets to the basket and the basket. And you're going to just accumulate a lot more blocks that way. Whereas Bam's job is wholly different than Rudy Gobert's job a lot of times, where his job is to get out on the perimeter, either hedge or show or just switch altogether, and just stop that player from driving at all. And so instead of getting the block, Bam gets like passes forced. You know what I mean? And so, but that's not a stat, So, they just, those opportunities aren't there for Bam as much because of what his strengths are defensively. But of course, it takes nuance and watching basketball games and watching Heat games in particular to see that. Bam was robbed of Defensive Player of the Year when Marcus Smart won it. I still don't understand why Bam didn't win it that year. That was crazy to me. He should at least have won. That said, we're not done with award talk here on this program. You and I agree he should definitely be on the all-defensive team. That's not an interesting conversation to have. Here's an interesting conversation. Has Bam played his way onto an all-NBA team? We'll talk about that next.
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena. The crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that part hasn't always been so simple. And that's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast, without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs, with the fans. You just pull up the Game Time app, you pick an upcoming NBA game, and you get tickets locked in within minutes. A friend of mine did it recently. He was like, oh, you know what? I want to check out a game. He's like, you know what? There's a lot of games coming up worth seeing. There's a nice home stretch for Miami, and they're surging at just the right time. You want to be able to catch LeBron James, perhaps in his farewell tour. I don't know if he's going to retire. Nobody seems to know. Well, guess what? They're coming into town in just a couple of weeks, and you can get to see him in person, perhaps for the last time, by buying tickets to the Game Time app. It's a great opportunity to get the best prices. You know exactly where you're going to be sitting, and you know exactly what you're going to be paying because they have their all-in price right up front. No surprise fees at checkout. It feels easy to use. It's a great opportunity to get some of the excitement as the team makes a playoff run here. And there's just so much that is such an advantage for you to get these tickets. And it takes all the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets when you use Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKDOWNNBA. You get $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON. You get $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. And remember, it's gametime.co, not .com. We'll be right back.
Love Locked On Heat and want even more? Join the Locked On Heat Everydayer Club and take your fandom to the next level. Get an ad-free podcast feed, exclusive bonus episodes, and extended interviews that you won't hear anywhere else. Connect with us through the members-only Discord, and members of the All Access tier can text us questions directly after the postgame, after shows for the postgame show, after games for the postgame show, using the subtext platform. Plus, unlock running game notes, alerts on news and rumors, and insider content built for the most diehard Heat fans. Sign up now at lockedonheat.supercast.com and become a true everydayer. All NBA. Here's what I got for first team. I've got Shea, Jokic, Victor Wembanyama right now. He's going to try to qualify. I've got Cade, and in my 5th spot, I got Anthony Edwards.
Yeah.
For now, that could change. Second team, I've got Donovan Mitchell, who could also maybe make a play for first team. Jalen Brown, who can also maybe make a play for first team. Jamal Murray. I've got Luka Doncic, and I've got Jalen Brunson on my second team.
Does Doncic qualify? I thought he was out.
Oh, Luka actually... Does Luka not qualify anymore?
I don't even know. I thought maybe I'm mistaken.
That's very possible that he doesn't qualify anymore. So
okay.
Either way, I still think that Brunson spot might be shaky, and potentially that Luka spot might be shaky.
Okay.
We should look up that Luka stat. But for third team, I've got a long list of players who I've got as potential. I think Tyrese Maxey has to make one of these teams, so he's also sort of in Sharpie on an All-NBA team for me. And then really after that, Kevin Durant, I think he's played his way onto the All-NBA team. He's been great this year. So I'd probably put Maxey and Durant in Sharpie for an All-NBA team.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty open after that, honestly. So my shortish long list after that is Kawhi, Karl Anthony Towns, Jalen Johnson, Scotty Barnes, Devin Booker, James Harden, Jalen Duren, and Bam Adebayo. And you look at the names that I just read off there. Bam has been as good as any of those guys. Kawhi, there's some games played issue, the fact that the Clippers aren't very good. If you want to put Kawhi on All-NBA, because that tends to be more of an individual thing than maybe MVP, I would hear a lot of people that say, hey, Kawhi's got to be on your All-NBA ballot. So let's put Kawhi on there because his stats have been insane. That still leaves, depending on what we find with the games played thing here, 2 to 3 more and All-NBA spots available between Towns, Jalen Johnson, Scotty Barnes, Devin Booker, James Harden, Jalen Duren, and Bam Adebayo. And I think you can make... Bam has been as good as any of those guys that I've said, that I mentioned there for those last couple spots, David.
Yeah, I think you can look at Towns and Harden right away and say that they probably don't have as strong a case as...
I would agree.
Duren, that's a trickier one because obviously that's a similar position. And I do think the narrative of, well, this might be more of an individual award, the context of being on the team with the best record in the Eastern Conference, that matters some. And despite Bam having outplayed Duren in their most recent matchup, I don't think that that's something that a lot of people are going to consider. Like we already saw Duren get the All-Star nod over Bam. So I think that's going to be a tricky one. As far as the other names on the list, yeah, they all qualify. They all have their strengths and their weaknesses. I think a lot of that will depend on whether or not one of the players that you mentioned top, specifically Luka, whether or not he fails to qualify. If Kawhi doesn't qualify because the game's played, then that opens up the floor a little bit more.
Luka, by the way, he can still miss 5 more games, so he qualifies right now.
Okay. So, yeah.
Bam, of that group, I think I'm with you on Towns and Harden. Right? That's who you said? Or Towns and...
Yes.
Yeah, Towns. Harden got traded, and that wasn't really his fault, although maybe he also did... Maybe I just have a hard time. Like, you played for 2 different teams. Like, what am I supposed to do with that? You know?
Right.
No, I think James Harden has been very good. I would probably keep him off of my All-NBA team. That would be like a weird thing for me. Towns has been so much of the solution in New York, but he's also been so much of the problem when things aren't going well that I'm just like, that's a weird candidacy that I'd rather just leave him off, as good as some of the counting stats are with him. And it hasn't been his strongest offensive season either. So that leaves us with Jalen Johnson, Scotty Barnes, Bam Adebayo, Devin Booker. And Is Devin Booker going to qualify?
I don't know.
He should. No, he should. He came back, so he should be fine. Bam, I would say the only player on this list that's as good as defensively, and I do think defense matters when it comes to All-NBA. It matters less when it comes to MVP sometimes.
Yeah.
But All-NBA, this to me matters. Like, I want... Who are the 15 best basketball players in the league this year that qualify? And of that short list of Jalen Johnson, Scotty Barnes, Bam, Booker, Duren, I think the only one that can match Bam defensively is Scotty Barnes.
Yeah.
And offensively, Booker's better, obviously. Jalen Johnson's better, obviously. That's really it. Bam is as good as a team rebounder as Jalen Duren, right? Duren has better raw stats, but at Bam's defensive rebounding rate when he's on the floor, the Heat rebound the snot out of the basketball. He's played a ton of games and a bunch of minutes this year. And he can lose out to one of these guys and still make it, right? If we've got 2 spots available. So what if we go Jalen Johnson and Bam? You're leaving off Scotty Barnes, which feels a little icky to me.
Yeah.
I'm kind of okay leaving off Jalen Duren and Devin Booker.
I guess the Duren thing is more of, well, he's a young player, and Cade being the MVP player that he is, you wonder whether or not he'll take some of the shine off of Duren's candidacy too. I don't think there's a games played issue with Duren.
No, he's played a bunch.
So I don't know. It feels like he might be the one player. Booker, I think, because Phoenix, has been kind of on the bubble a little bit. I think between him and Duren, I think those are the 2 weakest candidates alongside Bam. So that's pretty much where the race boils down to. Can I ask a question though, even as we're having this conversation?
I mean, is this one quick thing on the Bam Duren thing?
Yeah.
Bam, even outside of this hot streak, he's averaging more points per game.
Yeah, I know.
Basically the same amount of rebounds. Like, it's the shooting percentage isn't as high. Duren's shooting 63% overall, but that's because all of this stuff is spoon fed to him by K. That's probably a little unfair. Jalen Duren does have a little bit more of a face-up game, and I love Jalen Duren. He, by the way, might be my most improved guy. It would be between him and Keontae George. I think Jalen Duren's been terrific.
Yeah.
But
Bam
has even just if you go statistically, Bam's case is right there with Jalen Duren's.
I agree.
Go ahead.
But my question was, is this the conversation? I know we're having it as media, but do you think it's a consideration that Bam is having? Does he want to make all NBA?
Yes.
Okay. And
I don't know that. So here's why I wanted to have this conversation, is because so much of this is going to be focused on, like, we're almost in award season, and I do have a worry that the Heat and Bam are going to push just the defensive part of Bam and just make sure that he gets back onto an all defensive team, because that matters a lot to Bam. Bam wants to just be a perennial all defensive guy, and he is, and he should be, and he was unfairly left off last year. But I think he's been better than that. I think he should for sure be on the all defensive team. You and I agree on that. And I would, even if he doesn't make the all NBA team, I think the more important part of this is that he's played his way into that conversation, that the conversation should not and cannot, and this is my plea to the Miami Heat and Bam and everybody who's in charge of some of this push, which I guess we're part of it too, I guess.
Yeah.
Don't limit this conversation to all defense. We're done with that. We know it. It's done. He's all defense. We've got that done. He should be in the conversation for all NBA. That's the conversation we should be having around Bam. And I know for sure that Bam would love to make an all NBA team. That is something that this guy has been open about the accolade. He cares about the accolades. He cares about being an all-star. He cares about the milestones. He cares about, and I don't think it comes from a selfish place so much as a pride play. Like, he wants to be part of the history of this game, and this is the way to do it, is you get these accolades. That's how your name gets kind of etched into the history books, is doing these kinds of things and accomplishing these kinds of things. The part about the criticism of Bam, though, you mentioned this a couple of times. If he did make an all-NBA team, would that be enough for him to overcome some of that criticism and silence some of these critics? We're going to talk about that next.
Today's episode is brought to you by TurboTax. It's tax time, but for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes is a lot. Trying to book an appointment that's not the most convenient. Sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth and wondering if they really get your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax appointment or your app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve, while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in and meeting a real person and walking out, knowing your taxes are being handled right. So head to turbotax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. College basketball is nonstop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every day, every single night. From early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts, there's always action on the board. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay you want, rivalry games, ranked matchups, whatever fits your read. And you can mix spreads, totals, player props to match exactly how you see the slate playing out. And then you just apply the profit boost and you instantly bump up the potential payout. So much to look forward to. March Madness is right around the bend. That makes every game even more exciting, and this will too. So go safe, go bold, ride with the team you've been following all season. It's your parlay, your style, and now with more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. We'll be right back.
Thanks again for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Bam's been playing really well lately. The Heat are winning games, 5-game win streak. They could climb as high as 6th, maybe even 5th in the Eastern Conference. Bam Adebayo, as we talked about, going to be back on the all-defensive team, may even be in the conversation for All-NBA. He's averaging 22 and 10 over the last month. He's added a three-point shot to his game. Defensively, he's as good as he's ever been. We talked about the elite stats now, too. The on-off point differential stuff, being in a conversation with guys like Nikola Jokic and Donovan Mitchell. What does Bam have to do for the perception of Bam, for his highest critics, his toughest critics, to match the elite advanced stats that we talk about all the time with this guy and are even more elite and even better lately?
It has to be a combination of two things, and unfortunately it's about production. And it's a game with 10 blocks or close to. Several games, I would say, maybe with like 7 blocks or more. And also a game of 40-plus points, maybe even 2 games of 40-plus points. And that's it. That's what it boils down to. Because 22 and 10, those are great numbers. And it sounds kind of ho-hum in today's game. Again, we're talking about a perception that is based on statistical evidence. And the stats that we've mentioned that support Bam's candidacy and showcase what he does defensively, and all, that doesn't even matter. I don't even think the casual fan, I don't even think they consider all NBA. Really, all-star games matter more in that kind of conversation, not necessarily for your legacy or for your place in the eventual Hall of Fame or anything like that. But I think for like your more casual fans, the type of fans who probably hold a negative perception of Bam Adebayo, it's like, bro, he wasn't even an all-star, and he hasn't been an all-star for 2 years. It's like, okay, so Bam is already in the decline from that perception because he hasn't done anything. Like he hasn't gotten that kind of the kind of award that stands out to your more casual fans. You're talking about on-off numbers. I don't even think most fans, or I think a large portion of fans, I should say, don't even consider that. And it's unfortunate because I think this is a part of the conversation that's expanding since we've been covering the league to have these kind of greater statistics that showcase exactly how good a player can be on a nightly basis. And I think Bam is deserving of that conversation. And yet I don't know that a lot of more casual fans will be willing to engage in that sense because he doesn't have the numbers. Now, again, if you have a 40-point game against a team when it really matters with playoff stakes in the line or against a rival or something along those lines, that's when you're going to say, oh, damn, he's got it like that. Like that's what Bam has. That's what Bam is capable of doing. And then if he has the blocks, then that supports the undercurrent of that he's a great defender because he's got the numbers to back it up. It's unfortunate and totally unfair, but I think that's what really will stand out. In order to silence those critics, the types of critics that criticize Bam specifically, they need to see that. Otherwise, he's just going to be like a good player that does okay.
I'm with you. They're a role player, right? That's what he keeps getting labeled as. Yep. I don't know that the blocks matter so much, right? I think everybody knows he's great defensively, as locally. Like his harshest critics tend to be the local critics. Heat fans who just want more of Bam. I don't know. I think it just comes down to the offense, right? Because even the guys who block a ton of shots, if they don't score a lot of points, they're still considered role players. Like we know what Bam is defensively. Like everybody, like even the critics understand that Bam is good defensively. Like to me, it's the points. And I go back. He averaged 20 points a game once in his entire career. the 2022-23 season, his most bona fide of his All-Star years, shot 54% overall, 20.4 points per game, 9.2 rebounds per game, a little bit more than 3 assists. Those aren't superstar numbers, but it's 20 and 9. It's 20 points per game. And I do think, to your point with the casual fan, just hitting that 20 point per game number matters. Like, oh, that's a 20 point per game score. And I would argue, even like, to consider Bam a real superstar, you have to almost average more than 20 points. 20 points is not what it used to be. But since then, it's 19 points, 18 points, and 18.9 this year. And I do think that there's something to be said of, okay, cool, like, Bam started off slow, he's hot right now, like, do it for a whole season. I think there is a lot of fairness in that. Do it for a whole season offensively, and then I'll have this conversation with you. Average 20 or more points per game another season. Do it again. Get back to that level offensively. I think that is a totally fair ask of a fan base. I think it's totally fair. I do think it'll happen, for the record. I think it'll happen next year. It could happen this year, right? He's at 19 points per game. We got another 20 games left. Like, this could less than 20 games left. He could get there with a few more big games if he keeps playing like this. I will say, besides just maybe averaging 20 points per game in a season, I think he needs to do this in a playoff scenario to really silence the harshest of the critics. He needs to look like a number one option.
Yeah.
For a team that wins a playoff series. And I don't know that, frankly, he can do that.
Yeah.
And I don't know that that's even fair. But to answer the question of, to silence the harshest of the critics, it's probably that. But I do think that if eventually he's averaging 20 points per game, a couple years in a row, with all the defensive stuff that we know him to be, and the Heat get a superstar level player to pair with him, who is the number one option on a team that can win a playoff series, then I think all of a sudden that criticism fades from Bam in a major way. And that's what I think it would ultimately take.
Yeah. I think Bam is one of those players who will probably be remembered more fondly in hindsight. Assuming, and I think this is another part too, that he has to play for a championship. Like, look, I've covered the league for a while with you. Obviously, I've followed the NBA for a long time. And so you just think of a player like in my head, I'm thinking Dennis Rodman. Like, what is it that separates Dennis Rodman, who was a terrible offensive player, like flatly terrible offensive player, didn't give a damn about that. And he was perhaps the best rebounder in NBA history. And he was a role player, but he's remembered fondly, not just for the off the court antics or anything like that, but he's remembered for what he did as a defender, a rebounder, etc. But he played for the Detroit Pistons. He won 2 rings there. He played for the Chicago Bulls. He won rings there. That's what separates him. And so, look, even the conversation about somebody like Draymond, like Green played in title games and did what he did to win a title. And he was there and he played alongside Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, etc., in order to win those rings. But nobody can take that away from him. He's a 4-time champion. Bam Adebayo does not have anything to bounce to support his recognition as being one of the best players in the NBA that is effectively an excellent role player, an elite role player. And I think that counts for something. Like, I appreciate Draymond Green's game. I really do. I have for a long time. And I know you do as well. Like, you need players like that in order to win championships. You can't just be the other end of the spectrum. Like, everybody wants the production from Bam. Well, guess what? If you were that, then you're a player like Devin Booker was earlier in his career, where it was kind of like, these are empty calories.
Look at Phoenix, Durant and Booker and Beal. You don't think they would, like, that team is a lot different have they had somebody like Bam as the backbone of a defense and the rebounding and all that to do all those things. You need guys like Bam to win champion. Maybe that's what if Bam wins a championship with the Heat, then you don't apologize for anything, right? Brian Windhorst says this all. When you're a champion, you never have to say sorry. And you could say you can have a problem with me averaging 18 points a game instead of 21 points per game. You can have a problem with this, that, or whatever it is, my salary, whatever. If you win a championship with Bam as one of the top players on that team, proof of concept.
Yeah.
Right? Who cares what your stats are? You did the thing that you're out there to do, win a championship. And maybe that's ultimately what the answer here really is. Thanks so much for tuning in today to Locked On Heat. Make sure you subscribe, follow us so you get Locked On Heat every single day. Check out the All Access Everydayer Club and the All Access tier with the link in the show notes. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you tomorrow.